The Water Hashira Giyu Tomioka is one of the strongest characters in the series, but did you know that he's also an imposter? Giyu sees himself as an imposter and a fake, and by the end of this video you will know the full truth about Giyu's tragic backstory, his many powers and abilities, and his ultimate role in the final arcs of the Demon Slayer story. This video will cover extra material that doesn't even appear in the manga, so even manga readers can learn brand new info. Let's get into it. Giyu Tomioka is the very first Hashira that we meet in the story, and in fact we meet him in chapter 1 of the manga and episode 1 of the anime. While doing his job and investigating a demon attack, Giyu comes across Demon Nezuko as her still human brother Tanjiro is trying to calm her down and reawaken her humanity. As a demon slayer, Giyu plans to kill Nezuko, but Tanjiro begs and pleads with him not to kill her because he believes that there must be a way to cure her and turn her back into a human. Nezuko still hadn't consumed any human flesh, so there could still be some way of bringing her back. As a demon slayer who has seen countless horrible acts committed by demons, Giyu thinks that the idea of trying to turn a demon back into a human is preposterous. Once a human becomes a demon, there's no way to turn them back, and there is only one thing that can be done. The demon must be killed so that they can't go on to hurt innocent people in the future. Even though this line of thinking makes perfect sense to Giyu, Tanjiro refuses to accept this outcome, and he tries to physically stop Giyu from hurting Nezuko. Now, of course, Tanjiro at this point in the story isn't anywhere close to being strong enough to defeat a Hashira like Giyu, and so Giyu overpowers him. But then something strange happens. Tanjiro's demon sister Nezuko actually puts herself in harm's way in order to protect her brother from Giyu. Giyu is stunned to see that a demon, especially a demon who was just recently transformed, decided to actually protect a human instead of devouring them to get stronger after the draining transformation process. This triggers a massive inner struggle for Giyu, because what he's seeing happen with his own eyes seems to go against everything he knows about demons. In the end, he decides to do the unthinkable. He spares Nezuko's life. For a demon slayer to spare a demon is virtually unheard of, and this is even more true for a Hashira. When all the Hashira assemble for Tanjiro and Nezuko's trial, we see exactly how disturbed the other Hashira are by Giyu's decision. Most of them want to kill Nezuko immediately, and even the thought of doing anything other than killing a demon seems crazy to them. But Giyu stands by his decision, and he even goes so far as to promise that he, Tanjiro, and their master Sakonji Urokodaki, the former Water Hashira, will give up their lives if Nezuko ever attacks a human. That is pretty extreme, so why would Giyu decide to put his own life on the line for some demon girl that he only just met? I mean, of course it makes sense from our perspective as the viewers, because we know that if Giyu hadn't made this decision, then the whole story of Demon Slayer would have been totally different. Tanjiro was certainly traumatized by what happened to the rest of his family, but his main driving force throughout the series is his desire to save Nezuko, to find a way to turn her back into a human. If Giyu had killed Nezuko in chapter 1, Tanjiro would not have had this driving force, and who knows where he would have ended up. In order to understand why Giyu made such a controversial decision, we have to take a deep dive into his tragic backstory. Before we do that, if you guys enjoy our Demon Slayer content and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like right now. It only takes a second, but it helps me out a lot. And if you are part of the over 50% of people who watch my videos regularly but haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Subscribing on YouTube is completely free, but it helps me out a lot and it makes a big difference. In chapter 130 of the manga, Tanjiro realizes that Giyu seems to be mad at him for some reason. When Tanjiro asks why he's mad, Giyu says he's disappointed that Tanjiro has been focusing on Hinokamikagura instead of trying to perfect water breathing in order to become the Water Hashira. When Tanjiro replies that there's already a Water Hashira, and that is of course Giyu himself, Giyu says that no, there is no legitimate Water Hashira right now because he is not the Water Hashira, he is an imposter. Initially, Giyu refuses to explain what he means by this, but after Tanjiro keeps pushing for days and days, Giyu finally reveals that he never passed his final selection. To be fair, he did technically pass, but not in the way that he wanted to. Giyu participated in the final selection along with a boy named Sabito. They were both 13 at the time, and they both lost their families to demons. They became friends, and Sabito impressed Giyu with his courage and strength. However, despite the fact that Sabito was the one who killed all the demons on the mountain, everyone but Sabito passed. That's because Sabito was the only one who died during that particular final selection. Giyu believes that his own performance at that final selection was literally the opposite of Sabito. Giyu was injured by the very first demon that he had encountered, and the demon attack left him in a daze. Sabito then came to his rescue, and he told another boy to take care of Giyu while he went off to help others who were crying out for help. By the time Giyu recovered from his injury, the final selection was over. He technically passed because he survived, but Sabito, the boy who rescued him, did not survive. He kept fighting bravely and saving everyone else, and that ended up costing him his own life in the end. As a result of this tragic event, Giyu doesn't consider himself to be a legitimate Hashira. He doesn't believe that he passed his final selection fairly. He was essentially carried by another person, and then that person paid for his self-sacrifice with his life, while Giyu survived and reaped all the rewards even though he did none of the work. How could someone who hadn't even defeated a single demon and had to be rescued by another person say that he actually passed his final selection? In short, Giyu has an imposter syndrome in relation to the other Hashira. Despite being extremely strong, he doesn't consider himself to be worthy of standing side by side with the others. He feels that the other Hashira earned their esteemed positions, but he has not. So he sees himself as a fake Water Hashira, and he wants Tanjiro to replace him as the true Water Hashira. Tanjiro passed his final selection fair and square, and so he deserves the position more than Giyu. But, as we know, Giyu is not the only one who met Sabito. Tanjiro also knows Sabito because he met him during training for his final selection. Kind of. He kind of met him because he met the souls of Sabito and a girl called Makomo. Their souls appeared on Mount Sagiri, and they helped Tanjiro train for his final selection. And because Tanjiro knows both Sabito and Giyu, he begins to understand what Giyu is going through. Giyu feels that he should have died instead of Sabito, because if Sabito had lived, then he would have potentially become a much better demon slayer than Giyu. Tanjiro felt the same way after Rengoku died while protecting him. Tanjiro felt that if he had died instead of Rengoku, then Rengoku could have gone on to do so many amazing things, but instead he gave up his own life to save Tanjiro. However, Tanjiro then remembers what Inosuke said to him after Rengoku's death. Rengoku believed in them, so they don't have to worry about anything other than living up to that. Taking inspiration from Inosuke, Tanjiro goes on to say something similar to Giyu. He tells him to use the gift that Sabito gave him by saving his life. Giyu then remembers an exchange he had with Sabito, an exchange in which Sabito smacked him after Giyu said that he wishes he would have died instead of his sister. As it turns out, years ago, a demon attacked Giyu and his sister just a day before she was supposed to get married. When the demon attacked, Giyu's sister willingly sacrificed her own life in order to protect her brother. Giyu didn't think that she should have done this. He believed that she should have just let him die so that she could go on and live a happy life and start a family like she was planning to do. But Sabito tells Giyu to never disrespect his sister's death by saying what he just said. He must stay alive because his sister sacrificed her own life to give him a future. The name of Giyu's sister was Giyu Tomioka, and her death was so hard for Giyu to deal with that he had blocked it out of his mind. The truth is that Giyu lost 2 people who were close to him because they chose to sacrifice themselves to protect him from a demon. This led him to develop a severe case of survivor's guilt and imposter syndrome. If his life keeps getting saved by others, and if he is powerless to protect the people closest to him, then how can he call himself a demon slayer, let alone a Hashira? According to the Demon Slayer fanbook, since the existence of demons is not public knowledge, when, as a kid, Giyu told people that his sister was killed by a demon, everyone thought he was just mentally disturbed and he was sent away to one of his relatives. These relatives practiced medicine, so the hope was that they could find a way to help Giyu deal with his mental illness. But Giyu ran away before arriving at his relative's house, and he almost died alone in the wilderness. Luckily, he was found by a hunter who was friends with Sakonji, and Giyu was then placed in Sakonji's care. The Giyu Gaiden extra chapters revealed that after Giyu's encounter with Tanjiro and Nezuko, some people actually suspected that Giyu was the one who slaughtered the Kamado family because he had been spotted in the area. Once again, because most people don't realize that demons exist, they are more likely to blame demon attacks on wild animals or on other people, and in this case they tried to blame it on Giyu himself. When we consider Giyu's backstory, I think that his past experiences and the issues he developed as a result of those experiences ultimately contributed to his decision to spare Nezuko's life. The fact that he feels unworthy of being a Hashira makes him less sure of himself as a demon slayer, and so he is more open-minded to second-guessing himself. Every demon slayer's first instinct is to kill a demon right away, and most Hashira wouldn't think twice about it. But because Giyu doesn't think highly of himself and of his decision-making abilities, he was open-minded enough to give Nezuko a chance, and that is what set the entire demon slayer story in motion. We all know that Giyu has more than earned his place as one of the Hashira, and he is easily one of the strongest characters in Demon Slayer. But at the same time, I can definitely see where he's coming from. There is no way for him to go back into the past and redo the moments in his life when others died to protect him and he couldn't do anything to help them. That is something that has haunted him for a long time, and no matter how strong he actually becomes, he never forgets his past weakness. And since we're on the topic of how strong Giyu truly is, let's talk about all of his many impressive powers and abilities. At this point, I gotta issue a spoiler warning. I will be spoiling everything related to Giyu's powers and what role he plays in the final arcs of the story. So please proceed with caution. You have been warned. We know that as a Hashira, Giyu is one of the strongest demon slayers in the world. We also know that this generation of Hashira are among the strongest in history, perhaps the strongest since Yorichi's time, so being one of them makes Giyu one of the strongest demon slayers in history. It goes without saying that he is incredibly strong and fast, that he has impeccable reflexes, and almost superhuman endurance and resilience. Giyu also has unbelievable levels of willpower and determination, which make him an excellent demon slayer. He's not as strong as Yorichi himself, because Yorichi really was the single strongest demon slayer ever, and Giyu also isn't as strong as Gyomei, because we know that Gyomei is the strongest Hashira of this current generation. Nevertheless, as the highly respected and extremely powerful Water Hashira, Giyu is definitely up there. In his fight against Upper Moon 3 Akaza, Giyu manages to impress the demon with his strength and skill. And Akaza is not easily impressed because he only respects the very strongest of warriors. As the Water Hashira, Giyu uses water breathing, which he learned from the former Water Hashira Sakonji Urokodaki. Water breathing has 10 regular forms, and then an 11th form that Giyu himself created, and that only Giyu is able to perform. The forms include first form Water Surface Slash, which is a single concentrated slash. The second form is Water Wheel, which involves the user jumping in the air and spinning in midair in a circular path in order to create an attack that resembles a water wheel. The third form is Flowing Dance, which involves the user swinging their sword while mimicking the movements of flowing water. The fourth form is Striking Tide, which involves using multiple consecutive slashes while twisting the user's body in a way that resembles a powerful water tide. The fifth form is Blessed Rain After the Drought, which allows the user to kill the target in a merciful way so that the enemy will not suffer. This is used on enemies who are already defeated and helpless. The sixth form is Whirlpool, which involves the user sharply twisting their upper and lower body and creating a whirlpool that will cut through anything in its path. The seventh form is Drop Ripple Thrust, the fastest technique of water breathing. It amounts to a single but very quick and accurate stab. The eighth form is Waterfall Basin, a vertical cut. The ninth form is Splashing Water Flow Turbulent, which allows the user to adapt to shaky footing by minimizing his landing time and the size of the surface needed to land safely. The 10th form is Constant Flux, a continuous slashing attack that becomes more powerful with each new rotation. Finally, the 11th form is Giyu's own custom form called Dead Calm. This form allows the user to essentially go Ultra Instinct. Giyu calms his body perfectly and enters a completely peaceful state. Then he blocks, deflects, and cuts all attacks with pure instinct without needing to even think about them. Aside from mastering water breathing and even improving upon it by creating his own form, Giyu obtains multiple other skills and power-ups throughout the series which boost the power of his breathing style. This includes awakening his Demon Slayer mark, the mark that appears on the body of a Demon Slayer after certain specific conditions are met. A Demon Slayer who survives a life-threatening situation that sees their heart rate increase to over 200 beats per minute and their body temperature go over 39 degrees Celsius will be able to manifest the Demon Slayer mark. The mark almost always appears after the user has been in contact with other Demon Slayers who have the mark. The act of awakening the mark acts as a major power boost for every Demon Slayer, making them exponentially stronger and faster. The awakening of the mark also allows Demon Slayers to attain bright red Nichiren blades. Turning their blades a bright red color is essential for Demon Slayers, because these blades are able to stop demon flesh from regenerating. Obtaining a red blade is an absolute necessity for defeating the strongest demons like Muzan and the Upper Moons. It is important to note that even though the Demon Slayer mark enables the Demon Slayer to attain incredible new power-ups, the power that comes with the Demon Slayer mark comes at the cost of their own lifespan. Every Demon Slayer who manifested the mark dies before the age of 25, and the only known exception is the strongest Demon Slayer in history, Yoriichi Tsugikuni, who was born with an awakened mark. The true extent of Giyu's power is basically showcased in his battle against Upper Moon 3 Akaza, and in his contribution to the final fight against Demon Daddy Muzan. In chapter 146 of the manga, Akaza confronts Tanjiro and Giyu as they are making their way through the Infinity Castle, and this leads to one of the most epic battles in the entire series. Akaza remembers Tanjiro from his battle against Rengoku, and he believes that Tanjiro is still a weakling. Because of that, Akaza is confident that his punching attacks will be enough to take down a weakling like Tanjiro. But Tanjiro immediately impresses both Giyu and Akaza with his mastery of Hinokami Kagura. Giyu even acknowledges that Tanjiro's current ability is equal to a Hashira's, which really speaks to how far Tanjiro has come since the beginning of the series. A smiling Akaza then acknowledges that Kyojuro Rengoku was right when he said that Tanjiro is not weak. Akaza tells Tanjiro that he has his respect, and then the battle continues with Giyu entering the fray. At this point, Akaza is just excited to be fighting two respectable opponents, and he even remarks that it's been 50 years since he's gotten to fight against a Water Hashira. Akaza notices that Giyu possesses a technique that the Water Hashira he fought before did not, and that is of course Giyu's custom 11th form. Tanjiro and Giyu engage in some really good teamwork against Akaza, and Giyu even manages to cut off Akaza's arm, but Akaza can regenerate entire limbs in an instant, so even such a major injury has almost no effect on him. Akaza is using his explosive punches and kicks against Giyu's water breathing and Tanjiro's sun breathing. And this fight is an absolute joy to witness, even in the manga, and you better believe that I can't wait to see this battle animated in the anime. So far, the Demon Slayer anime adaptation has been incredible, and it is often even better than the source material, which is a rare thing in the anime world. During this epic battle against Upper Moon 3, we get some great action and some pretty great philosophy as well. Akaza and Tanjiro both share their completely different philosophies of life, but it's important to note that all this philosophy isn't just like talk no jutsu, because it actually has an impact on the fight itself. The things that Tanjiro says about the importance of helping other people begins to trigger Akaza's memories of his human life. Memories that he had forgotten and suppressed. This fight really does feature so many awesome elements. We get Akaza stopping Tanjiro's blade with his bare hands, Tanjiro doing his famous headbutt on Akaza, Giyu coming in clutch at a crucial time, and more, so much more. It is during this battle that Giyu awakens his Demon Slayer mark, which gives him a massive power-up and makes him stronger than ever before. And yet, even with Giyu's increased strength and speed, Akaza is able to adapt and the fight continues on and on and on. In his desperation to find a way to defeat Akaza, Tanjiro thinks back to an important lesson that his father taught him, and he finally unlocks the ability to see into the transparent world. This allows Tanjiro to have better control of his own movements, and also to predict the moves of his opponent in order to avoid his attacks. Thanks to his ability to see the transparent world, time appears like it's passing slowly for Tanjiro, and so he is able to react much more quickly than ever before. This allows Tanjiro to avoid an attack that Akaza thought would definitely kill him. And then, while Akaza thinks that Tanjiro is already dead, Tanjiro is able to eliminate all ill intentions from his mind, unlock the state of Anatta, and sneak up on Akaza. Akaza relies on detecting his opponent's fighting spirit in battle. But with a clear mind and access to the transparent world, Tanjiro is able to sneak up on Akaza and take off his head using Hinokami Kagura's Setting Sun transformation. And yet, Akaza is so determined to keep fighting and get even stronger that he tries to put his own head back on. Giyu prevents him from doing it by moving the head away from the body, but even after his head disintegrates, Akaza doesn't die. Akaza's headless body is still alive and fighting, and he manages to kick a shocked Tanjiro into the wall. Akaza is following in Muzan's footsteps and trying to reach the point where he can overcome losing his head. Muzan himself can survive even the act of having his head cut off by a Nichiren blade, and Akaza is attempting to evolve his demon form to do exactly that. It looks like Akaza's headless body is about to finish off both Giyu and Tanjiro, but then suddenly, Akaza begins to remember his life as a human. If he chose to keep fighting in this moment, Akaza could have killed both Tanjiro and Giyu. But after he remembers his human life, he realizes that the life he is living now is not what the people he loved the most wanted him to do. His life as a demon is the exact opposite of the life that his loved ones wanted for him. And so, Akaza decides to stop fighting and he willingly joins his loved ones in the afterlife. Akaza's decision to die is what ultimately makes Muzan's defeat possible, because both Tanjiro and Giyu would go on to play an important role in Muzan's ultimate defeat. Now, as you might have noticed, I skipped over Akaza's backstory in this video, because even though it is really interesting, this video is about Giyu, not Akaza. However, if you want to know all the tragic details about Akaza's human life, then check out my video on every Upper Moon's backstory, link in the description and in the pinned comment. After defeating Akaza, both Giyu and Tanjiro end up fighting Muzan along with a bunch of other demon slayers, including Inosuke, Zenitsu, Nezuko, Mitsuri, Iguro, Sanemi, and Gyome. Oh, and Murata. There's also Murata. In this epic clash against 5 different Hashira and a whole bunch of other powerful demon slayers, Muzan finally falls. The demon slayers manage to keep Muzan outside until the sun comes out, because the sun is the only way to kill him. Giyu suffers multiple serious injuries during this battle, including the loss of his left arm, but he keeps getting back up and bravely getting back into the fight along with the other heroic demon slayers. He is able to turn his Nichiren blade a bright red color, and he comes in clutch to help Tanjiro against Muzan during a key moment in the battle. And not only does Giyu save Tanjiro, he also saves other demon slayers from Tanjiro when Muzan attempts to hijack Tanjiro's body. In the end, Tanjiro regains control of his own body and Muzan perishes forever. Giyu survives the battle, and we know that he lives long enough to start a family and have children. These children would go on to have children of their own, and Giyu's descendants will survive all the way up to the modern era. If there was any doubt about whether Giyu was worthy of the position of Hashira at the beginning of the story, that doubt is completely removed during the Akaza and Muzan fights. Giyu is an incredible Hashira, a brave and selfless warrior, a great mentor to Tanjiro and the other lower-ranked demon slayers, and more. Giyu's intuition about Nezuko and Tanjiro from the very beginning of the story turns out to be spot on. Nezuko was indeed a special demon, a demon who did a lot to help the demon slayers against her fellow demons, and the first demon who was able to transform back into a human. And Tanjiro was destined to rediscover the forgotten original breathing style, sun breathing, and put an end to Muzan's 1,000-year-old reign of terror. None of this would have been possible if Giyu hadn't decided to put his own life on the line by sparing the lives of Nezuko and Tanjiro. The defeat of all the demons, the upper moons, and of Muzan himself never would have happened if Giyu had made a different decision. Without Giyu and the faith that he placed in the Kamado siblings, there is no Demon Slayer story. So even though Giyu Tomioka is a supporting character and not the main character in Demon Slayer, his overall impact on the story is absolutely huge. Without Giyu's actions and the extremely difficult decisions he makes, there is no Demon Slayer. In some ways, we owe it all to Giyu. What do you guys think? Do you like Giyu as a character, and who is your favorite Hashira overall? If you were a Hashira, what kind of Hashira would you be? Let me know down below. If you want an epic Demon Slayer video to watch next, and maybe you're interested in Akaza's full backstory, check out my video on every Demon Moon's backstory, link in the description and in the pinned comment. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like right now. And if you're one of the over 50% of people who watch my videos regularly but you haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, I'm talking to you right now. Do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications.